During our second year at college, we were tasked to create a documentary that explored the history and impacts of a genre of our choice. I pondered for a while about what genre I wanted to choose, going from thrillers to parodies until finally landing on the genre that I wanted to work on, a romantic comedy. If I'm going to be making a film to the scale that I wanted, I was going to need to do a lot of practice and research into the genre to ensure that everything was as accurate and as interesting as I wanted it to be. To do this, I started researching and documenting what I learned about the genre as a whole. This research is what we're looking at today, taking a dive into the history of romantic comedy and its place as one of the most diverse forms of film in the field to date. Hello everyone, and the warmest of welcomes to you all, as you join me here for What's That Genre? Yes, thank you all so much. Tonight we are joined by a very special guest. Everyone, put your hands together for the one and only Dr. Love.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here tonight amongst all of you and to share my love for this genre.
Of course, when it comes to romance, there's no one quite like yourself after all. So, tell us, Doc, if we want to understand how the genre evolved over the years, just where do we start?
Well, you weird cat thing. To understand how rom-coms came to exist, you first need to understand what rom-coms are.
So then, what are they, Dr. Love?
Right, the romantic comedy, or rom-com if you want, is basically the lights and funny tropes of a comedy film, all mixed up with the plot of developing a romantic relationship, which, in essence, just means it takes the best parts of its two parents, kinda like a kid, except nowhere near as loud, and I don't want to throw it through a window the second it screams. My ex-wife always told me off for it. That damn woman just couldn't handle me having it.
Whoa there. Okay. I think I understand a little bit better now. How about the word itself? How long have rom-coms really been around for?
Through the actual term rom-com was first coined by Oxford Dictionary in 1971. The actual premise behind romantic comedies has been around for centuries. Some of the first ones were by Shakespeare himself, with plays like Much Ado About Nothing and A Midsummer Night's Dream, that set the groundwork for many of the future rom-coms we see today. It's almost like my ex, who coined the term moron after she threw me out the house. And just
Hey,
like
Doc? Oh, whatever. Well, we know what it is and when it first started, but how do rom-coms typically go, I wonder? Well, luckily enough for me, I know. The plot of a rom-com is usually as follows. Two characters meet in some odd way, then they fall in love. Then, an obscure event gets in the way of that, causes issues. But in the end, they finally get together again and have their happy ending.
If I could, I would kick that vermin out of the house the second he came through the door, but no.
Not every part of the story is stuck in stone though. Many aspects of the core premise can and have changed from film to film. Things like the reason the characters broke up and why they got back together can vary wildly from one film to the next. Usually though, whenever the main characters fall out, they are shown separately afterwards in order to show the audience how they're meant to be together, finally realizing how true their love is after being apart. And while the happy ending isn't always marriage or the characters ever spending their lives together, it is usually used as a confirmation of sorts to show that the love is a strong force in their lives, and it will shape them no matter what happens in their future. Well, anyways, that's all we have time for today on What's That Genre. So, Dr. Love, do you think we're ready to properly dive into the rom-coms?
Right, yes. I think we've learnt enough to understand what you're doing. Is that it then?
Yep, that's it for tonight's show. While they go and explore more, we're gonna go get you some therapy.
Huh?
Hello? Hello? Yes, there we go. Just like new. Right, where was I? Oh, yes. We start our journey at the earliest form of rom-com films, where ones like Sherlock Jr. by Buster Keaton, or Girl Shy by Fred Neumeier were able to tell funny and yet sweet stories, despite being in the age of silent film, which I also seem to be in, by the way. Despite the lack of any audio, they were able to tell compelling stories through things called subtitles. As you can see, these were used to convey speaking without actually being able to talk, kind of like a book. Anyways, these films were vital in the creation of the genre, as well as the first big shift that genre ever took. This shift continued past 1928 as well, and into the rise of films with sound.
The form of romantic comedies that was brought around by these original films was given the name comedies of manners. These films revolved around people from different social standings and situations falling in love. The most common trope with this style of rom-com was the two main characters coming from drastically different backgrounds of income. For example, having a poor protagonist who falls in love with someone from a rich background. A large factor in this part of romantic comedies was due to the Great Depression, which spread across America and many other countries between 1929 and 1939, causing millions of people to search for ways to find joy and hope within their situations. A big part of that wanted hope came in the form of these romantic comedies, as they showed people that not all relationships were solely built on money, and that love could blossom even within the worst situations. And from here, we move on to the next. What the? As I was saying, we're now at screwball comedies, which actually got its title from the baseball term of the same name. In baseball, it's essentially meant that the pitcher would throw their ball in an unexpected way in an attempt to catch the batter off guard. Hold on a second, I just need to fix this. There we are. Now, where was I? Oh, right. These films added a breath of fresh air into the genre, and its very comedic dialogue and slapstick violence made for a great and exciting shift. Though, the greatest part of the shift as a whole was that for the first time in the genre, women took some of the lead roles in the films, which was a welcome change that led to some of the best parts of the genre. But, although these films were a great turning point in the genre, what happened next could not have been predicted by anyone. After the devastating effects of World War II, the genre fell into a steep decline. Whoa, hey! The romanticized ideas of love and marriage that were pushed by rom-coms no longer fit with the feelings of the world. Luckily, as a reaction to this, the entire genre suddenly took a huge shift over the few decades past the war. This shift, called radical romantic comedies in today's society, focused on the idea that love would not solve all of your problems, and were now more cynical takes on the idea of love as a whole, even going as far as to make references mocking the shortcomings of their previous shifts in the genre. They weren't all negative, however, as these new films focused on things like the health of their characters, and how taking care of yourself was far more important than believing in love. Now in the modern age we live in, excuse the glasses, we can probably see how the many shifts in genre all played their part in shaping it into what we know it as today. The soft lights and sweet sounds of their first forms, the freedom of expression and voice brought out from the more recent ones. The films of today take what worked about the past and add in what was missing before. Emphasizing the feelings and compatibility of their characters instead of the physical sides of the relationship, they are able to switch focus towards more personal and underspoken topics like homosexuality and the issues which teenagers struggle with. Films like Love, Simon and Alex Strangelove were able to tell the struggles of both homosexuality and the issues with the youth while keeping in the elements from the different shifts that led up to the point. All of these new untold stories now being expressed and shown in these films add more to the genre and make it even greater than it was before. Well, that seems to be everything. Looks like our dive into history is over. I suppose that means it's time for you to go back up. Hopefully this dive was informative for you though. Well, bye. Throughout the history of the genre, it's clear that romantic comedies have always been a reflection on the world we live in, always trying to show us a brighter side to life than we are. And although there have been some negatives to the genre, since they show an idealized version of love that isn't 100% accurate to how it works in the real world, the genre itself has allowed all genders, races, religions, and sexualities to see themselves reflected positively through these romantic comedies. Personally, I'd like to think the future of rom-coms is bright, with the world becoming more and more connected, and different types of people being given a voice to speak within these films. We're seeing more inclusive films now that are telling stories we've never been able to tell before, and I believe this will only become more apparent as time goes on. In a way, romantic comedies show how love can shape the world around us, while comedy is the extra spice on top that makes everything feel okay. To conclude, I'd like to just say that the genre definitely fascinates me. The fact that the genre can change entirely, like flipping itself on its head, is amazing. Compared to some of the other genres, this has been one of the most diverse and inclusive there is. One that tells the awkward stories we all have to tell, and shows how love can push through no matter what. Well, that's all we have time for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this incredibly special episode, and also hopefully I don't have to write any more of these. That's all from me though. I wish everyone the very best of luck on their work, and hopefully you all have a lovely day. Bye bye for now. Phew, what a train wreck that almost was.